All right, so we're doing this. This is March 26th, and we've all been inside for a while now. But it's a beautiful day outside, so if you have a window, I hope you're sitting next to it. I'm looking at the living room, kitchen area, dining room. So the outside for me is around the corner over there. John Macri. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about how to grab samples and things from places online. So what this is going to require is that you have some kind of a routing software. And there's a couple of routing softwares. Whoops, what did I do? I clicked on something. Oh, I made a new track. That's what I did. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do anyway. So if we go into, I'm going to go into Firefox, and let's take a look at what's out there. So I use Soundflower for stuff. And Soundflower is actually not really upkept much anymore. Rogue Amoeba took it over for a while, but then they stopped messing with it. And the guy who initially made it started messing with it again. Let's see, where is this? Did that just take me back to the original place? Yeah. And so if you go in here to this website, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and Cairo, Sandy, you're in my class, aren't you? If we go in here, I'm going to post this link up. Oh, wait, cancel. Boom. There's the link. Kashan. Those things. All right, so this is the link for getting Soundflower. Now, I'm using, the computer I'm using is Mojave Mac OS, and it works fine on my computer. I don't know if it works fine on the latest version of stuff or not. I've heard kind of conflicting accounts about this. But for me it works, and if you're not on the latest OS, it's probably going to work for you. And what this does, what you do is you load it in, you open it up, and you go to the one I just sent you, the link I just sent you, and down here in the bottom, and you open this disk image, open it up, and it's going to open it. And it's a little bit weird to install because it's not, the installer is not authorized. The program itself is fine and it works fine, but the installer is not, there's a word for it. I forget what the word is for it, but it's not, it doesn't work. Like, you have to authorize it to work. So what you can do is you can right click on it and go open. And if you right click and go open, then it will open, but it'll ask you to like authorize it, and what you're gonna have to do in your system preferences. You're probably right. I don't know, Mojave, whatever. Not terribly important for today's lesson. But, so in here, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to go in here to your security and privacy and unlock the thing to make changes. And you're gonna have to tell it it's okay to make changes. It's gonna show up right here in your screen. And it's not showing up in mine because I've already installed it, so it works okay. But then after you do that, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to okay your computer Actually, that's for something different. I keep forgetting that's for something different because I ended up doing a bunch of stuff at the same time, and my brain is still stuck in that loop. So you're gonna have to say it's okay to do it, and then you're gonna have to do it again. It's gonna stop, and you're gonna have to do it like basically once to let it to go, to like authorize it to go, and then the second time to actually make it go and install. So that's if you want to install Soundflower. And like I said, if you're running the latest Mac OS, it may or may not work for you. I'm not sure. I've heard people say it doesn't work. If that one doesn't work, there is a program called Loopback. This one costs money. They have a demo version you can use. So this button that says free download is a little bit tricky. It's just the free trial. It's not really the free version. I wish they would put free trial in there. It's a little bit tricky. But basically it's, what does it cost? It costs like, I don't know, 60 bucks, 90 bucks, 100 bucks. Wow, okay. Yeah, so it's not cheap. It's $100. And what it does is it's the same thing. It basically allows you to route audio around inside of your computer. So like if you can use the Soundflower, then use Soundflower. If you can't, I would try Soundflower. If you can't use Soundflower, then you're gonna have to get something like Loopback. There might be something else. Some other people were talking about something else that is out there, but I don't know what it is. All right, so once you get that in here, what was gonna happen is it's gonna put Soundflower into your computer. If you've already watched my using Twitch and OBS together video, then you'll have seen this. This is like a review for you. But if you haven't seen any of that, if you didn't go look at that video, and this is the first time we're talking about this, then this is all new. But what you really need to do is you'll want to go into your system preferences, and once you get into your system preferences, your output and your input here for sound will show you Soundflower. They're both going to be here, Soundflower. And you're going to want to get Soundflower going. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for just, I'm not going to set it up quite yet because I just want to make sure I'm getting audio coming through Ableton and stuff. And if we look at my Ableton audio setup, we can see here, because of the way I'm doing stuff with OBS, I've got this set up. Audio output is set up for Soundflower 2-channel here. Now, that's the only way you're really going to know that Soundflower has been installed on your computer correctly, is if it starts showing up in things. Because it's not an actual program that you open up. It doesn't show up anywhere else. It just shows up in your audio input and output spaces. And if I go into OBS and I open up my preferences for OBS, we can see, this is my Ableton Live preferences. And this here is my OBS preferences. And you can see here, it says mic aux audio 2 is Soundflower. And that's my input. And then you can see here's my external microphone. And if I go over here to my Ableton Live, we can see here is my Soundflower 2-channel output. The output is Soundflower. So what that does is it essentially routes my audio internally from Ableton Live into OBS Studio. And then what I do is I listen in OBS. So if I go ahead and drag some kind of a loop in here, right. Now, what you're actually hearing is you're hearing the signal go from Ableton Live into OBS, and from OBS it's streamed out into Twitch in this case. So that's what's happening. So what I want to do is I actually want to set this up so I've got sound coming from my computer into Ableton Live, because what I want to do is I want to record stuff that I find on the internet to sample from, okay? And now I'm just going to say right now that sampling is not legal. It's not, like, you can sample, you just can't, like, you can't use it to make money from, basically. So everything we're talking about right now is, it's not that it's like, how do I say this? Releasing samples, you have to get them authorized and cleared if you want to use the samples from stuff. So if you want to use a sample from like the Beatles, then you would have to actually contact the Beatles lawyers and record labels or whoever owns the Beatles music these days and hit them up and say, hey, can I use this sample from you that I recorded? And they're going to say no, because they don't let anybody sample their music. It's really important to understand that sampling is very different from covering a song. Who can tell me the difference between a sample and a cover? All right. Yeah. So, right, there's a lot of good things in here. So let's see. A sample is taking the song. Cover is an exact replica usually. A cover is your interpretation of the music. If you don't pay for royalties, you can't make money off sampling without getting sued eventually. But sample is modifying the OG version. Cover is you just singing the song in your own way. It's your performance. Sample is using the copyrighted recording. John Sweeney, Holloman, and Cardona. So let me write those down real quick. And Cardona's Andrew, right? I think. All right, so y'all are, some of you are right, some of you are wrong. For the most part, you're right. So a cover is like, let's say somebody makes a song like Beatles Yesterday, and I sing Yesterday, and I've got my acoustic guitar, all my troubles seem so far away, right? I'm singing it myself. That's a cover. That's me singing the song. A sample would be if I actually recorded, if I actually took the sample, the recording of the Beatles singing Yesterday, and I took that and I put it into another recording. That's sampling. And that's the difference between a sample and a cover. And covers, you can do. You can do covers. You can release covers, but how you, like the original writer has to get paid in some way. There is a place on the web called Harry Fox. The Harry Fox Agency. And Harry Fox is for music rights and royalties. And what happens with this is if you want to license music for, like if you've got like a film or something that you want to put some music into, or if you wanted to cover something and you want to license the rights to cover it. Harry Fox, I haven't done this in a long time actually, so I'm not sure how it is right now, but it used to be that what you did is you paid a fee to them. You paid a fee to them, and you could basically sell X amount of copies of the song your cover of that song. So if you were going to sell less than like say 2,000 copies of like physical copies of something, then you could pay them like $80 or $100 or something, and that would give you the rights to sell like up to 2,000 copies. Anything beyond that, you'd have to go through a different way of doing it, more money or rights or something like that. You'd have to start reaching out to lawyers and stuff. But this is something that people do all the time. It's not a very uncommon thing. With sampling, it's a bit different because with sampling, whereas a cover version has to do with the person who wrote the song or the publisher of the song, a sample has to do with the person who paid for the recording, which is usually the record label. So the record labels are usually the people you get in touch with for sampling. It's not usually the person who wrote the song, which is something that surprises a lot of people. A lot of times when I'm teaching this class, a lot of students are like, wait, I wrote the song, how come they're not going to contact me? And it's because, well, if you write the song for a record label, or a record label publishes your song, something like that, then you don't actually own the rights to that music anymore. It's the publisher, yep. So it really depends on like how your contract is worded and stuff, but most contracts, especially for commercial music, for more commercial music, and if you're doing hip hop and stuff, you're certainly doing commercial music. Most of that is owned by the record label or the publishing company or somebody like that. It's not owned by you. So if your friend wanted to sample a beat from your song, and that song is released, like let's say it's in a Kanye West track, and you made the beat for Kanye West and that was released, and your friend who you like a whole lot was like, hey, I want to use your beat for my other song. Well, they couldn't. They would have to go through Kanye West's lawyers and his team in order to use that material. They couldn't just come to you, because even though you wrote it, you don't own it anymore. They own it. So that's where sampling gets really weird. Now, the reality is that if you're just making music at home and you're just learning how to do all this stuff, just go ahead and sample whatever. Because if it's not going out past your bedroom or to your couple of friends that you've got, it's not hurting anybody. It's not really doing anything. And so don't put walls on yourself just because you're worried about the law. Like, the law is one thing, but the reality is another thing. And the reality is, learn how to do this stuff and get good at it, and record some stuff. Just don't steal stuff, and don't like one thing that I'm really big on now is don't steal software. Like, I'm not really a big fan of like cracked versions of software and stuff like that. So be careful with that stuff. And the reason why I'm not a big fan of, like, especially for software and music software, is because the companies are a lot smaller than you think. I used to work for a software company. I used to work for IK Multimedia, and that's the company that makes Sample Tank and T-Rex and like Miroslav Philharmonic and other stuff like that, Guitar Rig, that kind of stuff. Not Guitar Rig, sorry, Amplitube. And that company it's very small. I mean, when I worked for them, there was like maybe 10 people who worked in Italy, maybe less, and there was like 10 of us in America who worked in North America. It was so maybe 20 people. And so when you're actually when you're stealing the software from these companies, it does impact the companies because they are so few people. So, Tony, break the law for education. What about sound design? What if you use the exact version of a sound that another artist used, like if it was released in a preset pack? So that's a really good question. If you use a sound from a sample pack, those are, like, if you buy it, then you can use it in your music, but you can't re-release it into another sample pack. And and if you read the fine print, a lot of these, if you read the fine print of a lot of these things, that's what you're going to see. They're going to see, like, you can use this for anything, royalty-free, stuff like that, but you can't repackage it. It has, like, you have to put music behind it. So that's a big thing with it. Support products when you make money from them. I would say support products even before you make money from them, because it's not about, hold on, I'm going to make my face bigger there. There we go. It's, if you want to keep seeing cool products being made, don't wait until you're making money from it. If you're making enough money to be doing this, I mean, first of all, it's so cheap, relatively cheap, to be making music with computers these days. Even, I've been doing this for 30 years, and my studio at one point was like $20,000 worth of gear from all the synthesizers and samplers and drum machines and mixers and stuff that I had. And that's still cheap. $20,000 is still cheap. Nowadays, you have a computer. A computer costs you what, like $1,500 for a decent Mac, and a keyboard controller, which costs you like $100. A pair of headphones, which is like another $100. Okay, so we're less than $2,000 still. If you have a job and you're not living in New York City, then you probably have you can afford a couple more $1,000 for plugins and stuff like that. And a lot of like companies, they're doing really cool things now with subscription services. And so what you can do is you can try the subscription and you can mess around with the subscription and try it out and throw them some money. And if you don't like it, then stop paying them. And if you and then don't use their products. I have, because I'm a teacher and because I've been doing this for a long time and I have a lot of releases and stuff out in the world, I have quite a lot of products from companies. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't use that I thought I would use more than I do. So it's like, I think that you should still pay for stuff. Splice has a really good policy where you pay as you go for some synthesizers, and it's like $10 a month, but then you can stop paying at any time and you stop using it. But the cool thing with the Splice system is that you actually own it at the end of it. So like, let's say Serum, for example, is like $180. Then you pay $10 a month for 18 months until you finally own it, and then you stop paying for it. And I think that's pretty cool. Totally agree what I meant if they don't have the money in the beginning. I mean, I'm talking to Yang Music here, and I don't know. I'm sorry. I still, like, these companies are so small. A lot of the companies are like a handful of people, and by basically stealing the software, even in the beginning, you're hurting the companies. When the iLok got cracked, the original iLok 1, when it first got cracked, they had to lay off a lot of people from Waves. For example, Waves. Now, I think that at that time, Waves was a little bit overpriced. And I think they've had to reassess the pricing on things. That's my opinion. That's not based on any kind of research I've done or anything. I just remember those prices being quite high. But a lot of people got laid off. So that's a lot of people that had to go looking for jobs, that had to basically come home to their families and be like, I don't have a job. What are we going to do? And like, not to paint too dark a picture, but that's actually where a lot of people are finding themselves right now because of this virus. So it's something to think about, and it weighs heavy on me. And that's why I'm taking a little bit of time to talk about this. But there are, a lot of companies do have free versions you can try for like 15 days and see if you like it. For example, Ableton has a 30-day trial, and that 30-day trial lets you do everything with it for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, you know if you're going to keep doing it or not. Yeah, so that's that. Sorry, I'll step off my soapbox. Kelvin is here. Oh, wait. Kelvin, you're in Todd's class, sorry. AKA my class. We got to start saying Tony's class because, let's face it, it's my class now. Todd ditched you guys. He snuck out in the middle of the night. He was like, I'm tired of them. I'm just joking. I don't think he said that. But you never know, do you? Sorry, too hard? Too harsh. All right. So, let's see here. Where are we going with this? All right. Change Todd to Tony. Thanks. So what we're going to do, though, is, so basically going back to where this whole conversation started was not talking about software, but talking about music and stuff like that. And you need, like, here's the situation for you. If you make a beat at home and you put it up on SoundCloud, and then some company reaches out to you, like, let's say a video game company. This has happened. And I actually was sitting in a, like a workshop at Winter Music Conference once. But yeah, no problem, man. No problem, Yang. Yang Music. I'm here. I'm here for you guys. Hold on, James Van Tassel. So I was sitting in a workshop at Winter Music Conference. I used to do a few panels. I used to be on panels at the Winter Music Conference down in Miami for BMI and as a music writer and stuff like that for them. I used to go and sit on panels. And one of the panels I wasn't on, I was actually just watching. It was talking about music and video games. And this is like, this is back in the early 2000s. Like, so we're talking 16, 17, 18, like 18, maybe 18, 15 to 18 years ago. It was a while ago. And they were talking about, what's that Rockstar's video game? San Andreas, GTA, Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, GTA, exactly, thanks. And in that game, probably everybody here has at least dabbled with that game. And you know how like at some point you get in a car and you drive around and stuff like that, and you can turn on the radio, and the radio has music playing, right? Well, that music has to come from somewhere, and some of it's famous, they have some famous songs in there from famous artists, but they can't afford to pay every single artist. Well, now they can probably afford it, but they can't always afford to pay every single artist like, $50,000 or $100,000 for one song or whatever the numbers are. So what they would do is they would pad out a lot of the music with lesser known artists, and especially in the way to find that music is online. So the lady who was one of the producers for the music for that game, she didn't make the sound effects, she didn't make the music, she was one of the music producers. So she went and found the music and dealt with the contracts and stuff like that. And she had an interesting story where, and especially remember this is the early 2000s, so there was no downloading of games yet. Everything was a physical disc. You had a physical disc that you would hold in your hand and use that. And that's how I found a lot of the music, my childhood teens. Yeah, totally. Video games. Yep, absolutely. And yeah, the video game radio. It's some good stuff. So she had this story about one artist who, one of the things in their contracts would say always, do you use any samples in the music? And you had to sign a contract that said, no, I'm not using any samples. And she said there was one artist who had, and this is like a guy in his bedroom in like Milwaukee or somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And they found his stuff online, and he had a song and they wanted to use the song, so they used the song, and he signed the contract saying there's no samples in my song at all, whatever. And they made the video game, and they put the song in the video game, and they shipped all the discs out to the stores. Before the video game actually hit the shelves, before it actually got on sale, but after it had been shipped out, they found out that he did use a sample. And it wasn't a big sample, and it wasn't like a famous sample, or else they would have found it earlier, but it was still a sample. And so what they had to do at that point was then pay the person who the sample was from a lot of money, more money than they would have had to have if they had known there was a sample, because it was too late. They had already made all the packages and already sent all of them out to stores and stuff. So they couldn't make more. It's millions of dollars to make those packages for the video games and the discs. I'm talking about the discs that they're printed on. So this dude she said this guy was blacklisted and would never be able to work again doing music for anything in the industry, because he had messed up so bad and they had to pay so much money, and they went after him, right? And there's not a whole lot, they can't, I don't think they could go after him for money. I think it was on them to clear all the samples, to make sure there's no samples. So that's an example of something, why you don't want to use samples. And if you are using samples, make sure the samples are cleared. Now, a lot of people, they think you can't use samples at all. And that's also not true. You can use samples, but you have to get the samples cleared. What that means is that you have to go and talk to the record label or whoever owns the rights to that sample, whoever owns the actual recording of that. So that's what we're going to say, and that's what I'm talking about here. But it's still you still might want to sample things that you find online or on your computer and stuff like that. So that's what we're talking about. That was a whole bunch of preemptive, making sure I'm not crossing any lines with this. Or what's in the public domain, right? Absolutely. There's a lot of, I have some links. Let me see. Do I have it on my phone? Hold on. Let's see what I got here. I think I have it on my phone. Yes, I know. I can't connect to the internet. I'm in airplane mode. Yeah, here we go. philharmonia.co.uk/explore. There we go. Yeah, this. Boom. Yeah. We're gonna. Oh, they didn't. Cannot be found. Oh. Oh, here we go. Sound samples. Boop. Cool. So there are a lot of here, let me get this big again. Boop, there we go. So here, I'm going to go ahead and post this in here. There's a lot of companies that put up some free samples and public domain samples and stuff like that. Wait, RJ, what are you saying? I used a sample from a song recorded in the 40s. Oh, in the 40s. There's an S. 40s on an album I made a few years ago. It's in the public domain, so no trouble. Right, exactly, yeah. So public domain stuff is fine. There's a lot of free stuff that exists out there for people. There's companies. Who was the other company? It was Converse? Converse Sounds. Let's see, was it Converse? Sample Library. No, that's Rubber Tracks. Here we go. Boop. Yes, I accept the cookies. Stop it. So this says, Rubber Tracks is a community-based professional recording studio in Brooklyn, New York. Emerging musicians of all genres can apply for free studio time. Are they still doing it? I'm not really sure if they're still doing it. But they also had, hold on, Converse samples? Sample library. Did they stick it all into? They had it online for a long time, but it looks like they've stuck it into Splice. That's lame. Let's see. Oh, gross. That's too bad. Oh, that makes me sad. Because I don't really like the way Splice does it. Or maybe it's just you got to sign up for it. I don't know. It used to be free. The Splice, the Converse sample library. Yeah. But anyway, if you do a search for free samples and stuff like that, you'll find there's a bunch of stuff out there, and there's some really good stuff, and there's a lot of like RJ was saying, like public domain things, and you can find like old radio broadcasts and stuff like that from like the 30s, 20s, 30s, stuff like that. So if you do some digging, you can find some of the samples to get good samples from. So let's check out how to go ahead and kind of, some of these you can download and other stuff you can't. So let's go ahead and let's see. Let me show you how to get stuff from one place to another in here. So if I go in here and let's go to let's go to YouTube and just do a search for public domain. Short public domain videos. Boop. All right, so here's videos that are in the public. This is like people dancing. What is this? I don't want that. There's a whole bunch of stuff though. Hold on, there's more. Popeye. Ha. Yeah. Ooh la la. It's on YouTube, so. What is this? Does this have, that's not, hold on, I'm just looking for something that's actually got talking. Falling Cat, 1894. It's a little bit, how to go places. Okay, we'll sample from this. Thanks, RJ. All right. So what I'm going to do here is, here's what you got to do. If you want to sample from YouTube into your Ableton Live, what you're going to do first of all is you're going to go into your system prefs, and you're going to go to the output and you're going to change that to Soundflower 2 channel. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go into Ableton Live itself and set your input to Soundflower 2 channel. Now, this is going to create a feedback loop. So I'm going to put this into my external headphones. Yeah, so you're going to not hear this while I'm sampling it. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want to create a massive feedback loop right here. But I still want to be able to hear it myself. So just bear with me and I'll... Justin, I need your last name, dude. So there we go. So now you're going to see this is going up and down. When I hit go. Cool. We're still getting a feedback loop, but not oh, probably because of other stuff I've got set up. I got like too many things going to Soundflower right now. But let me record this here. I'm going to turn this up so we can see, we can get the recording. And we can listen to this in just a second here. Got that going on. And we're going to go and check out what it sounds like. So let's stop that. Let's see if that's normally you'd be listening to this because you'd have your preferences here set up correctly. Because of this video I'm making. It's nice. Feedback. External. All right, there we go. So let's listen to what we got. Did we get this? Let's see. It's still feeding back. That's hilarious. I don't know. I'm not going to deal with how to fix it right now because I've got so many things going to the Soundflower and this and that and OBS and everything. It's like going crazy. But if you were not broadcasting out to the world, this setup here, external headphones here, and then Soundflower 2 channel here, and then on your computer, the output of your computer saying Soundflower 2 channel here would be the way you would do that. So that's how you would do that. All right, so, and then you would end up with the audio from YouTube or something like that. So it's a pretty cool little thing you can do. You can also use that for getting audio from other places on your computer. So sweet. Boop, boop, boop. Cool. All right, so that brings us to the end of the first video. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. Yeah, it was muted. It wasn't coming through. I wasn't monitoring it when I was recording it. It's not that, it's something else. But that brings us to the end of our first video here, which is mostly just talking. Sorry about that. We will be doing more. I want to show you actually warping and stuff in the next video, and I'm going to grab, we're going to be talking about sampling and stuff like that, like how to sample from various bits and pieces of things. All right, cool. So with that being said, I think let's take a break. Let's come back at 3 p.m. All right, give you a little bit of extra time there to kind of recover from all the Tony talking. Cool. Sound good? Any other thoughts? Anything else? Cool. And if anybody tried installing that on the latest version, what is the latest version of macOS? Is it Catalina? If you installed it and you got it working with Catalina, let me know. All right, cool. All right, see you after the break.